I'm going to read part 9, nearly halfway through the book. It's very exciting. Hope you're all well. Right, so. Last night I thought you'd gone forever, I said. Where did you go? To the river, for I had much to think on, and it is a fine place to do it, he said. And then he looked at me long and hard. I fear I must leave you, cousin. Whether it be the dog, the smell of the tobacco, or your brother Will, where I stay, here and there can be a little doubt that one day we will be discovered, and that might prove grave indeed for your grandmother. I mean not to play on words, but it is apt enough. You know that I have come close to killing her once already. To stay would to risk only a greater disaster. I shall meddle no more, sweet cousin. I had meant to stay and do you and your family some service if I could, but I may not risk another day here. I must be gone from this place before it is too late. No, I protested, and too loudly. Walter held his finger to his lips. It must be so, chick. If I go now, our secret is safe and no harm is done. I have tasted again the sweet air of my youth, and I have found such a friend in you, dear Bess, that I do not wish to leave your side, nor ever leave this place. But it needs must be. It is not safe to stay, and besides, I have matters at home that call me back. Home? I said. What home? Why, the Tower, cousin. I delude myself if I think otherwise. The Tower is my home. I have none other. Am I ever going to see you again? I asked, fighting to hold back the tears. You know where you can find me, he said. If ever you have need of me, you have but to come, and I shall be there. I turned away from him and wiped my eyes. You should be brave. It is I that should weep, for it is I that must go. You have much to rejoice in here. A fine father, a loving mother, and a brother who also loves you, but who knows not yet how to say it or to show it. Little Jim loves only his food, but I would wager you will be the apple of his eye as the years pass. He took my chin in his hand and lifted it. But I warn you, dear cousin, there are storms ahead. You will have need of all your courage, so no more tears. Storms? I asked. He was speaking in riddles, as he often did. What do you mean? I fear you will understand, and that soon enough, but I cannot say no more. I shall meddle no more in your affairs. I will be with you, but in spirit only. I would fain stay with you, cousin, and protect you from all that lies ahead of you, but I may not. I belong no more to your world. I had plans afoot to help you. Indeed, they were already much advanced, but I see now that I have always been the cause of more harm in this world than good, however noble my intentions, and I confess they were not always so. You may fare better without me, cousin, than with me, if you only remember that storms always pass by and give way to clear blue skies. Mark me well and remember these words. Only have faith, all will be well, and it shall be so. Only believe a thing it is, and it is. Believe it is not, and it is not. Count on it, sweet cousin, for it is true. We must bear all, and bravely too. He stepped back from me and wiped the tears from my cheek with his cloak. I must be gone, back to London, but I do not think I should take the horse again. It is commonly thought that ghosts can fly, but they cannot, and so neither can I. How else then may I come to London? Oh, Father's going into town in the car, and I can take you onto the station, I said. I did not try to change his mind, because I could see it was already quite made up. It was no problem to find a good excuse to go with Father to Exeter that afternoon. I needed to change some library books. It was a sombre journey. Father was very preoccupied and hardly said a word to me all the way. He wasn't concentrating much on his driving either. More than once we nearly ran into the car in front, and he even lost his way in the city centre. I prattled on as best as I could about Gran and Sally, but I could tell that he wasn't really listening to me. Walter sat in the back seat all the way, looking out of the window, and when we got to town, Father dropped us off outside the library. He had to go to the bank, he said, and he'd be back in an hour and a half. I was to wait on the steps of the library for him. We walked in silence through the streets of Exeter, Walter and I, down towards the station. When we got there, they said a train was due in a quarter of an hour. No one ever looks at the tickets at the barrier, not that we needed one. When the train came in, I opened the door of the first-class carriage, so Walter Raleigh ought to at least travel first class, I thought. I looked over my shoulder before I spoke. There were only a few people on the platform, and they were all busy. I could talk without fear of being overheard. "How will you know your way to London?" I asked. "I have travelled often on the Underground," Walter said. "Though I do not like the press of people about me, it is an inconvenient way to get about. It is unnatural, I think, for a man to travel like a mole, but I am accustomed to it now. Fear not, cousin. Tonight I shall rest in my bed in the tower." Doors slammed to the right and the left, and someone bellowed for me to stand clear. "Farewell, sweet cousin," said my friend Walter, leaning out of the window, and he lifted my hand and kissed it. "Think kindly of me, and often, I pray you." I could not bring my voice to say anything, but I waved and blew kisses until the train had vanished and my friend Walter with it. "Are you all right?" He was a railway guard, and he was frowning at me, his cap on the back of his head. "I've been watching you. First you walks all along the platform and opens the door of the train, then you closes it, then you talks like you were saying goodbye to someone, and then you waves goodbye, and now there's tears all over your face. It's like you were saying goodbye to no one. You sure you're all right?" I nodded and walked away fast towards the stairs. "You on your own, are you? Where's your mam?" he called after me. "Where's your dad?" I began to run. I think I ran all the way back to the library without stopping. I had a terrible urge inside me to catch the next train to London and follow him to the tower. I had lost my friend, and I was going to be alone again. I didn't know if I was more sorry for him or more sorry for me. Either way, I was miserable. I was sitting waiting on the steps of the library for Father, and I had an idea. If I couldn't have Walter with me, then I would have the next best thing. I would find a book about him from the library and read it. That way I could find out more about him, and I could get to know him better, even if he wasn't there. The book I found had a very small print and only one picture of him on the title page. It was of Walter Raleigh as a young man, but I recognised the way he stood, leaning on his cane, a half smile on his lips, his legs crossed. I was halfway through the first page when Father drew up. I could see at once that something was wrong. He was grey and drawn, and he said not a single word all the way home. I asked him what the matter was, whether he was feeling ill, but he didn't even reply. It was as if he had never heard me. I had to wait until we got home to find out what had happened. He walked around the garden with his arm around Mother, and then out into the front meadow beyond. With Will beside me, I watched and waited for them to come back. When they did, I could see that Mother had been crying, but she tried not to show it. "I've got some bad news," Father said, "and your mother says I ought to tell you. Well, here goes. We've got to leave the farm. We've got to sell up." "What do you mean?" said Will. "What do you mean, sell up?" "Nothing else for it. We can't pay the rent on the place, and so we've got to go. I've just been into the bank to see the bank manager. He says we can't go on, not anymore. That's all there is to it." Okay, so we're on to chapter 6 next. So exciting. Right, see you soon.